All right. I think we are live now. I'm pretty sure that we're live. I hope so. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I got my backup equipment here tonight because all my primary studio stuff is barricaded down in my basement because we're getting some work done. So hopefully you can see me and hear me well. First thing is thanks for all your support. Uh, can't do it without you. I appreciate you guys continuing to tune in, and come over here and give me the encouragement that I need, to keep going because this is a team effort, not just a solo effort. So thank you. Tonight, this evening, Veterans Making a Difference, number 16. It's on. And I got with me just a fantastic dude on the other side over there. His name is Matthew Askren. He ascended from, a United States Marine Corps sergeant, honorably discharged, becoming the CEO of 3 different companies at 33 years old. He's got a large presence on LinkedIn, goes over there and motivates people. He's got almost 20,000 followers. Not that we're counting or anything, but does say that a lot of people listen to what he does have to say, which is amazing. I think I got 400. So, Matt, you're smoking me out. But everybody, welcome my fellow Marine brother on the other side, Matthew Askren.
Appreciate it very much. Hey, if it means anything, I heard about you and your podcast long before you ever heard about me, I think so.
I know, man. Sometimes you sit here and you're like, how am I doing with it and everything? And then somebody like yourself gives me that feedback. It's like, man, maybe more people pay attention than I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
It's absolutely true. And you definitely make a difference. And like I chatted about when we talked offline, I've heard about you and your legend for going back to when I think I was a Lance Corporal or a Corporal. So it's an honor.
Yes, we'll keep that legend thing, hosted for a little bit. I don't know about all that, but yeah, no, truly humbled by you saying that. Thank you very much. Let's go ahead and get right into it because time is of the essence. So, Matt, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your background, and everything before you were a Marine.
Great. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and to be truthful with you, I was a bit of a juvenile delinquent. It was an alternative school, BD class type youngster. And with that, dealt with a lot of internal and external strife. And I got it kind of figured out by the time I finished high school. But that ultimately is what attracted me to the Marine Corps. The ability to embrace challenge, the ability to understand myself and kind of look inward. That's why the Marine Corps was so interesting to me, having overcome some of those challenges in those preteen and teen years. And then, also it's ironic because I'm sure we'll get at some point to my current career, but, now being the CEO of a company that focuses on mental health, it really is kind of full circle, and we never know what life's going to bring us.
Yeah, it's one of I like asking that question about, and you kind of hit on it, like why did you join? I mean, there's so much easier shit to do, like join the Air Force, and no offense, Air Force, like I love y'all, but that's like Camp Cupcake. Marine Corps shit's hard. It's difficult. It's a hell of a tough thing to do.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I'll take 60 seconds to give you that rundown.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
I'm the great grandson of a Marine. World War I era, grandson of a sailor, World War II era, father, Vietnam, drafted into the Army. So I've got a pretty stringent history of service on both sides of my family. So military service was not shocking, especially given kind of my trajectory. But, I was a junior in high school. It's February, and Marine recruiter is in my high school. Retired First Sergeant Keith Sander. Tremendous recruiter who was a centurion. So, he was an elite level recruiter. And I can tell you with complete sincerity, he changed my life and he never lied to me. He didn't sugarcoat anything and he never lied to me. So amen to him. Still keep in contact with him. He retired into the Pittsburgh area. But I went and I chatted with him really just to kill time. And nobody was up there talking to him. I figured might as well have a chat. And from then on, I was an unofficial member of the delayed entry program until that summer when I became an official member. And I was on there for a year until I shipped to boot camp, I think 6 days after I graduated high school. So, that's my rationale for joining. I was looking for challenge. I was looking for meaning. I was looking for purpose, and military service, given that we were at two wars going on. That was all about it.
Awesome. Hey, hi, Mom. How are you? My mom's chiming in over in the live chat. She said you sound just like me and my reasons for joining. So, Mom, thanks for tuning in. We love you. And by the way, Mom, I'm drinking water tonight, no bourbon. So that should make you really, really happy.
Water for
You
me.
know, there you go, Matthew. That's like interesting because I think you and I might be two of the only Marines you would ever talk to that would probably venture to say that our recruiter had a bigger impact on us than our drill instructors. My recruiter was amazing. Daniel Lanzikos, retired Master Gunnery Sergeant. If you ever hear any of my podcasts, just want to tell you I love you and thanks for everything you did for me. Matthew, talk a little bit about your time in the Marine Corps, brother.
Yeah, so it was all in all a tremendous experience for me. There were plenty of ups and downs, and I, if the time was right, and if we were talking about something that was pointed and pertinent, I could go into some of the downs. But instead, I'd rather talk about the ups, which is mostly focused on people and mission and purpose. I was blessed to serve with just tremendous people. I had some really solid leaders because I was on the Afghan National Army embedded training teams, similar to Drip Parsons, who you've had on here before. He and I were actually on that deployment together. An opportunity to just be among really elite Marines in very close quarters, getting to know each other the way that ranks typically aren't able to. So everything from one of my first ETT, I was a corporal, all the way up to a colonel, and you really get to know each other pretty intimately because of that small unit environment. Not like SF where it's first name type stuff necessarily, although I'm sure some of that goes on, but just deep and detailed interactions, trust that gets built. Again, it's very professional in my experience, but at the same time, when you watch the podcast with you and Drip talks about Bill Torado, tremendous Marine that I got to know. He was on a different team than I was, but just an awesome Marine. Some of the other guys on my team, I was with Sergeant Major Rodney Robbins, who's a legend, especially for those Parris Island drill instructors. I think he spent 12 years of his career on Parris Island, or between Parris Island and Pensacola. So guys like that I got to know on a personal level. Colonel Jerry Smith, Colonel Phil Smith, who Colonel Phil Smith is something of a legend himself, a recon Marine that joined right after Vietnam and ended up as a full bird colonel. Just really interesting people. And again, to have kind of seen how they interacted and kind of understand, peek behind the curtain and understand why they made those decisions. Whereas in kind of a traditional linear or kinetic deployment, you would never, as a corporal or a sergeant, understand why your lieutenant colonel or your colonel is making their decisions. You'd never dare ask. You probably wouldn't ask your captain why he's making his decisions he's making, let alone that. Instead, you're on a 8-hour convoy with your colonel. You're going to have a conversation, right? You're going to have these talks. You're going to have that conversation with your gunny or with your sergeant major, and you're going to have those talks. You're going to be at Bridgeport training with them, and your sergeant major is going to be bored and asking you Bible study questions because he doesn't have anybody to ask. Those are the things that you'll just ultimately remember. So tremendous people, and that's what I remember. I also remember being put in uncomfortable situations that I wasn't always ready for. I fresh in the fleet, get sent to Fuji for cold weather training. Don't know anybody. Didn't have all my gear. Figure it out. I got sent to 29 Palms to be a comm school instructor essentially right after I had Latin moved. Didn't know anything about comm and had to figure that out for 2 years. In the process, I actually had a blast, and I've made some lasting connections because of it. But you just don't know that when you start. So that's my philosophy on the Marine Corps. It was about the people, it was about the purpose, and there were some mundane moments.
Of course.
There were some games that were played, but I was blessed that every day that I was in the Marine Corps, I woke up and I had a purpose, and that was really accelerated again when I was on the ETT, which I was twice, ETT 3 TAC 3 and ETT 3 TAC 5, and I also augmented ETT 7 TAC 2. We may have a chance to talk about it at some point, but that's where the book The Outpost, they were in that book. And then there was a movie called The Outpost. I've yet to check it out, but I've heard nothing but great things about it. And so, Jake Tapper wrote the book. I'll be honest, I waited until last year to read it. I kind of had the mentality that, I had been there, so I didn't need to read it.
Yeah.
Whether that was me being totally honest with myself, or whether I just didn't want to look at it from somebody else's perspective. I don't know which is completely true, or maybe they both were. But I read it a year ago, and it was actually pretty cathartic, and it was really well done. So maybe one day I'll watch the movie, but I have heard truly great things about it. And there's actually a page in the book, and I apologize, I'm veering, but there's a page in that book where they talk about a patrol that I was on. I'm not named in it or anything, but there's a patrol that I'm on, and there's a pretty gruesome and graphic part in the book. And I remember sitting and I start chuckling, not because I'm a masochist or anything, but because I remember thinking, wow, I didn't remember that at all. I had zero recollection of that until it talks about this part of the book. And it's like, now it's the most vivid memory in my life. For the last year, I can, and it's not, at least at this stage, it's not necessarily like a bad memory or anything, but it's just funny how our brains work. And I think that's how service is. When you're in, we think about how hard boot camp was, or how little we slept during MCT, or when I was working in armories, about how I hated that I couldn't go use the bathroom. You think about that stuff when you're going through it, and then as time goes by, you think about the people and the purpose.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a lot. That's a lot to unpack. Okay, let me start with this. Just to be clear with the viewers, Embedded Training Team (ETTs), they're small groups of Marines that served either alongside their Iraqi counterparts, Afghan counterparts. Now, here's the thing: they are training them. I'm talking from the most minuscule tasks to the most complex tactical tasks that they would do on the ground. So, for instance, like teaching them how to do damn jumping jacks, teaching them how to fall into a formation, all the way to like closing with, destroying, and killing the enemy with fire maneuver rather than just standing out there being targets. And here's the kicker to it, right? It's one thing to train them and just say, go off and do great things. But these Marines are side by side with these Iraqis and these Afghan troops, side by side, taking fire, returning fire, and out there guiding and leading on the deck. So huge shout out to all you. It's a very underrated, untalked about thing that not just the Marine Corps, but other services did as well. And it's very, very cool. It's honorable. And to me, it's like probably one of the coolest friggin' billets you could do serving in the GWAT era. So, hey, shout out to all you ETT dudes. Secondly, mundane points, right? Mundane points. I tell everybody this, almost 28 years in the Marine Corps, I spent 3% of my time actually doing like combat. Actual like combat. I'm not talking about just deploying, like actual combat. It's a fact, an absolute fact. So anyway, those are my talking points for you, my reinforcements for you. Brother, let's get into post, right? Because you not only do you have an exceptional career, 7 years in the Marine Corps, Sergeant of Marines, and decide, to take your talents and your skills, out to the civilian sector. It's hard enough doing that stuff after you get 20 years and you have some kind of income coming in. But for you guys, you're starting out at the ground level, for you. So talk about that experience for you, brother, please.
I appreciate it. So, you get told, go get your disability, which is very important. But at the time I got out, there was very little guidance on that. And to be honest, the rating process was pretty difficult. And so not only is there no income in terms of pension, I'll speak personally, my rating over the years has increased dramatically, not even by doing anything, but having them go back and double check and triple check the ratings that they originally didn't do accurately. And I think that's a lot of my era of people that got out around the time that I did, of what we've dealt with. It's not asking anybody to cry for us, just pointing out that, when we got out, the only way a lot of us were really expecting any income is if people were going to use the GI Bill. And in my case, I wasn't going to use the GI Bill. Eventually I did about 10 years later. But initially I didn't use the GI Bill. So I had to get out and I had to figure out a pathway. Initially, my plan was to franchise a 7-Eleven. If you can think back to that mortgage bubble burst kind of era, it was really hard to get good loans. And so I was going to have to work for free if I franchised that 7-Eleven. And so I had just gotten married to my first wife, and we had just bought a property, and working for free for a year just wasn't going to cut it. So I ended up having to kind of reformulate that plan, and I ended up into the business world. I ended up in food manufacturing for a company that makes the Chicago style hot dog buns, Alpha Baking Company, S. Rosen's, which was a company that as a consumer I was really familiar with, but from a business standpoint I had no idea about. And they were looking for somebody that was cheap and that would work hard in really hot, humid environments. Hey, United States Marines, great for that.
Yeah, perfect.
Comfortable working in bilingual environments.
Yeah.
Also something I was good at. So, I got my chance, and from there I just kind of started to build, which eventually led to me going and getting an education, which also helped me build. But the biggest thing I can tell anybody about the process of getting out and kind of making your way is you just have to be hungry. And when I say hungry, it can't just be talk. I've lived in 8 states, and most of those aren't from the Marine Corps. It's because when I've gotten opportunities offered my way, I picked up my family and we went and we've moved to places that other people might not want to go to, so that we could make my career elevate, because we saw a trajectory that was open there. When I went and used my GI Bill, I was very mindful about the school that I went to, very mindful about the programs that I went to.
Yeah.
Did that while working full time, so I didn't have to lose any steam off of my career. So I was taking 18 credit hours while working full time in management at Tootsie Roll, and also at a bakery company in Atlanta. Once I moved, I finished up my MBA while in a senior management position in New England for Smithfield Foods, the world's largest pork company. So I mean, it wasn't
New England,
Springfield, Mass. So although I was living in Hartford and West Hartford, but they didn't understand. They couldn't understand why I would drive 30 or 40 minutes. I was like, well,
I get it.
You just won't get it. But
right.
New Englanders aren't big on driving, I learned. But you've got to have a willingness to really get after things. I never turned down overtime, even in a management role where I wouldn't get paid for it. Really, worked more holidays, more weekends than I could count at that stage of my career. And that's how you get there. The blessing I had from the ETT was that I had this exposure to these senior people. And one of the things I learned in that environment was how to ask questions and how to understand lines of questioning. Some of the smartest leaders I was ever around asked the best questions. So when I got into corporate America, I did the same thing. I worked in that company, Alpha Baking, where I was in meetings I had no business being in, just how the company culture worked. And I understood there's the same thing there. They asked great questions at the top, and they asked questions that made sense. They asked an A, B, C type question series, beginning, middle, end. And I could almost understand where they were going, and I could almost intercept it. So as my career improved and went forward, I implemented that. And all of a sudden, I never thought of myself as being that smart, but I'd be walking out of meetings and people would be like, man, you get it. And it wasn't because I was that smart, but it was because I had paid attention and I had studied the people that I worked with and worked for, going back to my time on the ETT or going back with the Afghans, where I had to make split-second decisions about how they were or who they were, thinking it might affect my life and death. And apply them into business. And I tell people all the time, I never got a job because of who I was related to. I don't hate anybody that does. I'm just telling you the truth. I've got some successful family members. None of them ever got me a job. I was able to get high level positions in companies that up until recently other people started. So it comes down to how do you speak, how do you think, how do you demonstrate your results. All the way back to when we're in the Marine Corps, we have fit reps. Well, how do you document what you've done on your fitness report? Well, you get to the corporate world, you've got to be able to document what your downtime was in a manufacturing environment. How did you add value by adjusting the company's profit? What's your EBITDA? Well, what does EBITDA even stand for? Holy crap, we might want to learn that. These are all the questions that you got to ask both other people to understand what they mean, and then ask yourself. And then you have to have the consistency to be regimented enough to track them, even when you think it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. There's a couple things. First, you talked about education, and just you probably heard me and Drip, go at it about education on our podcast. Just to the viewers out there, just understand something that even though tuition assistance in your GI Bill, you say it's free, it's not free. You earned it, and you should really be considerate about who is on the receiving end of that. Rather than just this kind of checklist mentality that we have of just, let's get an associate's degree, bachelor's degree for promotion. We need to get this. Well, if I get this, it'll get this, to get this. Like, you want to actually learn things that'll be useful to you, not just during your time in the military, but when you depart. So like in Matt's case, he was thoughtful about that process, and got a business, an MBA, and that directly translates into what he's doing now rather than just getting a general studies thing. And no offense to you guys that do that and just check the box. I'm just asking to be more mindful, because you earned all that money. Just like giving away money for nothing but a diploma. You don't, how much pride would you have putting a diploma mill, degree on your wall for your kids to look at?
You know what?
Think about it like that.
I'm extremely proud of my Hampton University and Jackson State University degrees. If other people are proud of where they got theirs from, then I love it for them.
Yeah, but hey, no offense. I'm not offended by it.
But I can say with total happiness that I made the right decisions for me, and I was, like you said, I was mindful about it, and those degrees have served me extremely well. And so I'm blessed. I look at that as being, I've made a lot of bad decisions in my life. How I handled my post-military education was probably one of the smartest things that I've done. I got my bachelor's degree and my MBA done in 3 years while working full time and being a dutiful father.
Yeah, man, that's good.
At that time, no, but I bet you when you were on the drill field, you didn't sleep either. So we all make
not much.
and I didn't have anybody depriving me of eating it. So I had so I kid, but I mean, my point is that we all sacrifice. We all have to make sacrifices at times. It's important that we make wise sacrifices. So that's one I'm right with you on that. I tell people all the time when I talk to people who are transitioning, be very mindful of that stuff, because in the private sector, people care about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If I can tell people one thing that people care about that I don't think a lot of military people think they do, if you're going into business and you're going to get a master's degree and you're in business, if you're not in business, then this doesn't apply to you. But if you're in business, don't get the MS degree, get the MBA.
Yep.
You can tell me, and believe me, I've had service members tell me 100 times, why does it matter? It doesn't matter why it matters. It matters that it does matter.
Yep. Yeah.
If you go and you look at the bios of most of the companies out there right now, what do their CEOs have?
Probably MBAs.
They don't have the MS in organizational leadership.
Right.
And I'm not pushing the MS in organizational leadership. It could be as good or even a better degree. I'm telling you, my contemporaries have MBAs. That's why I got an MBA. When I talked to, the reason I picked my school for my MBA, when I called Jackson State to talk to them, they told me two things. They told the guy that ran the program was a guy by the name of Kenneth Randy Russ. He had been the CEO of Community Coffee, which for all the people down in the Gulf Coast, they know Community Coffee real well. And he was a food CEO. And he said, we don't have any food executives in the program. We'd love to have you. I said, well, that's awesome. And the next thing he said after that was, we'd love to have you so much, we'll waive the GMAT for you. I'm sold.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I get to deal with a food CEO who runs the program, and I don't have to take the GMAT. I was willing to take it. Now I don't have to take it because they look at me like I'm something. Let's do it.
That's good stuff, man. I appreciate you guys, man. We got a good handful here tuned in tonight. So let's go ahead and give them kind of the last part of the main effort of our live stream tonight here, Matt. And at 33 years old, you started out, like you said, as, working basically in a hot, steamy friggin', factory type environment, as an underpaid, professional, as a young dude, and you ascended all the way to being CEO of that company at 33 years old, man. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I had gotten involved with some private equity folks, and uh, the Guggenheim family out of Switzerland was looking to do a startup, which was XLNT Bakeries, Lucy's Hoopie Pies. And so through networking and through being able to, again, ask the right questions, present myself a certain way, use LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn now, I think, for 13 years. So I was a little bit of an early adapter in that way. I was able to get a position to be president and CEO of XLNT Bakeries. That ended up coming to an end. All good things come to an end sometimes. Thank you to COVID and then Russia and Ukraine war kind of hurt their global portfolio. And I ended up as president and CEO of Family Farms Meats and Alpha Omega Meats, which are both two companies that have the same ownership out of Wisconsin. And then now currently I'm the CEO out of Mindful Me Care, which is an AI company focused on mental health, especially for law enforcement, for veterans families, first responder families. So it's been a really interesting journey. Now I look back on it, I've spent the better part of the last 6 years as a CEO or something like it. And, I don't know how it happened exactly, but I'm really happy about it. And that was my goal. But I look back on it and I say, all right, what did I do to make it happen? And I built the network to make it happen. I made the plan to make it happen. But then most of all, on those late nights when I was either working third shift, where I was standing behind an oven at 140 degrees in the summer, or I was doing a paper about Tesla to finish graduation, or whichever. I kept plugging away when I didn't know what the future held, and that's the story of all of our futures if you want to be in business.
Man, amazing. I'm just fascinated by just what motivated Marines and good Marines can do post, right? Like business, you're just another example of what a good Marine, with a good plan, good work ethic, and good human traits can accomplish, right? I mean, there's so many different avenues to do it, but you just shown, on this year's live streams that, a different industry. I mean, who would have thought that a Marine sergeant, would get out, and go work in a hot, factory around making pies and stuff, and then you ascend to CEO, right? But I always tell people this, Matthew. I always say that just whoever believes in you, go in there and just hit grand slam after grand slam, and just people are going to notice that. They're going to see your traits and your qualities, and then conversations will happen, and your reputation is everything, and you got nowhere to go but up from there.
You nailed it. The people that say your name the most and that say your name the proudest, never give them a reason to doubt you.
Yeah.
If you do that, things tend to work out pretty well.
Hey, thank you for coming on tonight. You've been amazing. We're pushing up against our time limit here for the night. You got a family that I want to give you some good liberty tonight, man. I would just like to pass the torch off to you for closing comments. A lot of veterans out there that tune into the program, and also shout outs. And I'll be the good senior enlisted guy to nudge you and say, don't forget your family. Go ahead.
Yeah, I love my family. I've got a tremendous wife. And I've got two sons that I love dearly. So I've got parents that are very supportive and pushed me into being a good human being, loving God and loving country, which obviously have been pillars for me. And then I'd love to point out that mindfulme.care is a website that I think everybody watching this should check out. AI is being used as a companion tool for mental health right now. And, I know that Mark and I could trade stories left and right of people that we know who either when we were on active duty or now that we're off active duty, who've had mental health challenges. It's just reality. And our goal is to get people using this tool on a regular basis so that their average day can go from being a 3 or a 4 to a 5 or a 6, so that when they get their worst day of their life, that they go down to a 2 instead of a 0, because at a 2, they're going to live to see tomorrow. A personal friend of mine was Staff Sergeant Linnell Springs. Unfortunately, a couple of years ago on Camp Pendleton, he took his own life. He went live on Facebook right before that. I was one of the people that was trying to talk him off the ledge on that live stream. We weren't successful. So it is my job now as the CEO of this company to try and help out the veterans, the active duty, the reserve component, first responders, their families, to try and help out the college students of the world, because there's a lot of people out there that are in need of some help. And it's never been easier than being able to go to a website like mindfulme.care to start that journey.
Definitely, man. I'll make sure I put that in the description as well. And for all the viewers, Matthew's social media profiles are already in the description. I'm going to go add the Mindful Me. And I wanted to say, thank you for not just for coming on tonight, but thank you, for taking action steps within the veteran community and trying to make it better. And to your point, last week I lost one of my Kings Bay Warriors to suicide, and then one of my fellow drill instructors to suicide, 2 in 1 week. So we just have to keep on having conversations like this and seeing, what we can continue to do to chip away at it, and try to, like you said, that's a good point, get them out of that human volcano. And, hey, if we can get them down, to simmering, and just being, functional, for a period of time and rise up, we can get them back down. That's great, and continuing care between. So my mom says, thank you for what you're doing. She says that she really appreciates what you're doing. My mom is like the most patriotic woman you've ever met in your life. So she loves hearing stuff like this.
Well, thanks to all the Marine moms, because first of all, it took a special mom to raise a Marine. And then second of all, to be a GWAT mom.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I know we're running along, but my mother dated my father while he was in Vietnam, and then had me as a son twice deployed. And she said that having a son twice deployed was way worse than having a boyfriend in Vietnam.
Wow.
I don't think that had anything to do with the difference between Vietnam or Afghanistan. I think that has everything to do with the difference between a significant other and a child.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, man, and all the best to you and your family. We got to sign off here. I'm just going to have to ask you to hold tight so I can upload your track. Hey, everybody, again, thanks for all your support. I hope you enjoyed tonight's live stream. Please leave comments, feedback, constructive criticism is always welcome, all of that stuff. But hey, it's been a blessing, to be able to do this tonight. And thanks again. You guys have a good one.